we going to work on today?
In today's episode, we're going to take another piece of furniture out of our garage hoard and start working on it. I want to show you how you can use Grandma's old furniture like this china cabinet and turn it into something that is modernly useful and fits your own style. Just because it was Grandma's doesn't mean you have to keep it original. And you know we're going to do this on a nice small budget. I really need a hutch for one of my booths because the hutch that was in there sold. So this is the nearest hutch in my piles of hutches, china cabinets, whatever you want to call them. So we're going to do that one. So we need to get it out and assess what we're going to do with it and get started working. Golly, that's a lot of dust.
Actually, let me go the other way.
The top comes off. If you are new to my channel, you may be wondering why I have all this stuff in my garage and what in the world we plan on doing with it. But we resell items all the time. I love to flip furniture here on YouTube. And I have created somewhat of a terrible hoarder's mess in my garage. So I have been taking you along one episode at a time until we can empty this garage out. I need to have it empty so we can park our cars in here during hurricane season here in Houston, Texas. Here's the top. Beautiful piece. We took the middle doors off because we wanted to be open. So I need to figure out what I'm going to do with this situation here. We can't take these off because it's what's holding the shelves up here. So what are we going to do? Man, it is so dirty. I love these carvings that it has. Very pretty. Here's the base of it. So beautiful. Something that I hear all the time from my viewers, from my friends, from my neighbors, from family members is that they have hand-me-down furniture from either their mother, their grandmother, an aunt, an uncle, a grandfather, whoever it may be. They have passed down some furniture and they don't know what to do with it. They've had it sitting around their house for a long time. It doesn't necessarily fit their style. Maybe they kind of are starting to secretly resent having to hold on to this piece just because of the sentimental value, even though they don't like the style or it doesn't function how they need it to function for modern living. But what I'm here to tell you is that you can change these things and make them work for you. So it's more important that we're keeping things out of the dump, we're saving money, and you're honoring that thing that you feel like you need to keep for sentimental values by reinventing it to make it work for you. You do not need to keep all of Grandma's things original to the form that you got it in. You are allowed to make things work for you, and in a way, it's going to make you love that thing even more than you did, and you're going to be glad that you got to keep it and honor Grandma or your mom or your grandpa or uncle or whoever it may be by still loving it and using it just as much as they did in your own way. And many times, this item that gets passed down to you is a china cabinet. I cannot tell you how many times I see people giving away china cabinets away for free just like these because people don't necessarily display china anymore. It is not a modern thing that people do. It is not a necessity, and budgets are hard right now. Everybody's having a hard time financially. Like, we just don't have the space or the reason to use a china cabinet anymore. So for today, I'm going to show you how we are going to repurpose this china cabinet into a much more functional piece of furniture that would work for more modern living conditions. This one had a missing foot here, and I'm going to recreate it using some Bondo, but the first thing that I need to do is put a few nails in here so that the Bondo has something to grab onto. This is the first time I have ever attempted this. I have seen videos of it on YouTube, and I wanted to try it out my first time here for you to see it so you can see whether or not this is actually easy to do, and it was. So I wipe down the foot that matches the one that I need to replace, and then I accidentally forgot to spray it with oil, so I spray it with oil, and then I go over it with hot glue in several layers to make a nice thick cast over this foot. Then I carefully remove it and use that as a mold to recreate a new foot using some Bondo. I'll have everything linked in the description box down below in my Amazon store, and you definitely need one of those oil sprayers. I have olive oil in mine, and it helps me to be able to have pure olive oil for when I'm cooking. That way it doesn't have any who knows what that's in the grocery store spray cans added in there. I know exactly what I'm eating when I have my own spray bottle like this, and now I've even used it to help flip furniture. It created a perfect mold with that hot glue, and I am excited to see how it's going to turn out with the Bondo. I mixed up some old Bondo that I had in my garage and stuck it inside the mold, not in any kind of special way, and then I put it back over the broken foot and squeezed it down and wiped off the excess. Since I already had the Bondo out, I decided this would be a really good time to fill in those holes where the hinges were, where the doors used to be. And the reason I take the doors off is because, like I said, we are repurposing this. So before, it would have had doors that close in your pretty china or collectibles or breakables to keep dust off of it or to keep kids from getting in there and breaking it. But we live in modern times. We need shelves. We need places to put plants. We need pantry space. We need things that can hold kids' toys or arts and crafts supplies or craft supplies or whatever it may be. We need open shelving. That is much more useful than having glass doors to hide collectible things. So whenever we are flipping a china cabinet, we always take all the doors off and leave it wide open. You could even take one or two of the shelves out and use it as a coffee bar space, or take every shelf out and use it as an entertainment center and mount your TV inside there so that you don't have to see any wires. There are so many ways that you can reuse and repurpose a china cabinet. I know that right now what's very popular is people having nice home libraries and that cozy academia style. So you could turn this china cabinet into a beautiful bookshelf for all your book collection. Or if you sew, you can put all your fabric inside here. There are so many ways that you can reuse a big china cabinet like this, and you don't have to throw them away. Bondo hardens extremely quickly, especially when you add more cream hardener to it. So every can of Bondo comes with a little tube of cream hardener. The more you add, the faster it dries. The less you add, the slower it dries. And when I say it dries really fast and hardens really fast, I mean within minutes, like 1 to 2 minutes. It can start hardening depending on how much cream hardener you use. So that is something to keep in mind, and that's a great reason why I use it, because I can get this project done so fast if I'm not waiting days for this to cure. And while I was getting all that done, this foot has already hardened, and I would say that it was a really great success. It looks just like the other foot, and while we have the sander out, my husband Manny has decided to sand this door a little bit because it was sticking, and I know that when I paint it, it will make it stick even more because it will add an extra layer of paint in there. So he's sanding it down just a little bit to give it a little extra space to open and close. For the curved surface of this foot, I'm using a padded sander attachment. That way I don't dig into the curves too much, and I'm just going to eyeball it and sand it until it looks like it matches really well with the other foot. And while I was doing that, Manny was doing that same sanding treatment to the drawers to make sure they weren't going to stick once I paint them. The sun began setting on us very quickly, but we still had quite a bit of work to do. I'm going to use some Windex to clean this off. I'm only using Windex because I am trying to use up all of the extra Windex that we have. I've been switching to more natural cleaning supplies, but I need to use up all of my other stuff before I switched to the all natural things. So I'm trying to use up all my Windex. If you're going to be keeping something wood, I do not recommend cleaning it with Windex because it can discolor the wood a little bit. For the very detailed surfaces, I like to use my brush attachments that go onto my drill, which I have linked in my Amazon store down below. I also accidentally made this part fall off while I was cleaning it, so I'm going to use some Starbond super glue to glue it back on. I will have Starbond linked in the description box below with my discount code, and look at how fast this super glue sets. This is my favorite. It's just like with Bondo. I like using things that work quickly so that I can get jobs done. And no, I did not speed that up. This Snow White colored milk paint by General Finishes I have had for years in my craft supply stash and have not used it. Don't know why. I don't even remember where I got it. In fact, I think somebody else had given it to me forever ago, like many years ago, and now it's time to finally use it. I gave it a really good stir, and now I'm going to be painting the entire surface with this milk paint. I wanted to do milk paint because milk paint leaves sometimes a crackled finish or just like a textured finish, and you can also buy milk paint in a powdered form for much less money if you are on a tight budget, or you can repaint your pieces with oops paints that are like $6 at your local hardware store, or whatever paints that you want to use. Do it within your budget. While I was painting, Manny was still sanding. So he was sanding all of the insides and the outsides of the drawers. Sometimes you can have things that are stuck on drawers that won't come off from cleaning, and the best way to get rid of that and make the drawers like new again is to sand them back down to the bare wood. This is one of the main reasons why I say do not throw away grandma's furniture, because older pieces of furniture like this are quality. You can actually repair them and reuse them over and over again and remake them into different styles and colors over the years as your own taste changes. You don't have to throw them out. Whereas if you buy the cheap fake pressed wood stuff, once it gets water damage, that's it. Now we're just filling up all of our dumps with tons of throwaway furniture instead of just remaking grandma's furniture. When we brought it inside, I noticed that this top part had a little bit of the wood lifting up from the veneer on top, so I took some more of my Starbond super glue and put that inside the crack and wiped off some of the excess glue before taking a scrap piece of wood and setting it on top of there, and then using a clamp to clamp it down as it dried. Since there was a whole lot of glue here, it did take a little bit longer to dry, but I mean only longer by minutes. And I made sure to wipe off any excess that came out after putting that clamp down on there, and while that was drying, I started painting the drawer fronts. I don't like using painter's tape if I don't have to. I feel like it's kind of a waste of money, and if you are just working slowly and carefully, you can easily use your brush along edges to keep nice straight lines. I also paint inside all the time, and you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, how are you not getting paint all over the place, all over your floors? Well, don't worry. First of all, our floors are tile, so paint comes off easily with a wet paper towel or a wet rag. And second, I have been painting like this for decades now. So I have been painting since I was a little girl, and I'm 34 years old now, so it's been like, I would say almost decades. And so I have learned ways to not make messes when I'm painting inside and not get drips. It just takes a lot of practice. But you can always put down a tarp or trash bags. I love using trash bags. And you know why? Because not only is it like a perfect surface to paint on top of, but you can still reuse the trash bag afterwards. Whereas when you use a tarp, if it gets paint all over it and the paint starts chipping off, eventually you're going to have to throw that tarp away. But if it's a trash bag, you can throw away your trash in the trash bag, and it's a 2-for-1 deal. It took 2 coats to get nice coverage on here, and then I decided that I wanted to use a heat gun to force a bit of a crackled finish on the spots that had not crackled on their own. The heat gun portion is not necessary at all if you're not using mill paint and if you don't want to have crackled finish. If you're just using regular latex paint or chalk paint or whatever have you, you could just let it dry on its own and skip this part. But once that was done, it was time to put the drawers back, and my vision was finally coming to life. I love the end of the projects like this because you're starting to actually see the picture you had in your head on the actual furniture, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with these grates. So at first I thought maybe I should paint them gold and maybe make them like a brighter gold. So I got this spray paint and sprayed them with one nice good coat of this gold spray paint to like update them a little bit. And while that spray paint was drying, I came inside to start distressing the piece. Remember, I'm going for a French country look on this since it already has that French provincial shape. But if your piece is different than this, you do not have to distress, and you could do completely different colors and styles than what I am doing. For the handles, make sure you give them a nice clean. And for a really tight budget, what I love to do is use Rub and Buff. You can get this tube of gold Rub and Buff for about $6. And it should last you months, if not years, of projects. This stuff goes a long way, and it's a great budget-friendly way to update pieces of hardware. I just very lightly brushed some on here to bring out some dimension to the shapes that were on each of the handles. I was so lucky that all of the handles were here and were intact, so I didn't have to buy any handles for this. But if the piece you're working with is missing a handle, the best and cheapest place you can get new handles from is either Amazon or Hobby Lobby when they have their 50% off sales on their hardware, which is very often. If you go there and it's not on sale, just wait a week and it will go on sale. Now that all the handles are on and I'm pretty much finished, it's time to decide if I want these metal screens in here or not. At first I thought they would go really well with the gold on the handles, but now that I'm seeing them here, I feel like it looks outdated and very 1960s and not in a good way. So we're going to just take those out and leave it wide open. That makes it a more functional piece anyway. You can use it for a lot of different things when it's all open shelving, even as a pantry in your kitchen. And I'm going to lightly distress it so that it matches the distressing that I did on the bottom half. The new purpose that I gave to this piece is to use as a display in my resale booth, and it's also up for sale there as well. Many of you have been telling me that I price way too low, so I'm going to conduct an experiment and price this at $499.95 and see what happens. So far, I've had people ask me about it and ask about the price, and it immediately scared them off when I told them that price. So it seems as though in my area that is too high of a price, but I will give it a little extra time and see what happens. Now you can't even tell which of the feet is the one that I repaired. They all look wonderful, and I'm so happy with how beautiful this crackle finish turned out. So if you have an old china cabinet or a different piece of furniture that was handed down to you, what are you going to turn yours into? Let me know in the comments section down below. And feel free to share any projects that you have repurposed in the comment section as well to help give ideas to others. In this community, we love to encourage, share ideas, and support one another. So we'd love to hear all your ideas. Thank you so much for watching episode 4 of Clearing Out Our Garage Hoard. And if you liked what you saw today, don't forget to hit subscribe down below, and we will see you next time. Bye!